What's going on with y'all? It's Jeff Lightsy Jr. here with the Ball Sports Network. Thank you guys for sticking with me through the COVID-19. I hope everybody is safe at home and doing their part to prevent the spread of the coronavirus and to flattening the curve. Now, we haven't had a whole lot of sports, but we did get parts 1 and 2 of the 10-part Michael Jordan documentary. It dropped via ESPN, and wow. I mean, that was pretty crazy. It's just starting up, but it's pretty amazing in those first 2 hours what we got to see in the career of Michael Jordan, and also a looking deep dive into that 97-98, the last championship in the second three-peat to give Michael Jordan his 6th ring. Now, the biggest takeaway that I have from the documentary, from the first 2 parts, is there's two big things. One, the hatred for GM Jerry Krause, not only by Michael Jordan, not only by the fans, but by Scottie Pippen, by Phil Jackson, by everybody. Nobody liked Jerry Krause. And to his credit, Jerry Krause was a solid GM, right? Like, he was a pretty good GM in the drafting of Tony Kukoc and trading for Scottie Pippen and the acquisition of Horace Grant and the signing of Dennis Rodman. Like, as a GM on the basketball court, obviously you had Michael Jordan, so that helps you a whole lot, right? When you have the best player in the world and the best player in the game, it helps you a lot. But to go out and acquire those pieces to put around Michael Jordan, he wasn't bad at his job. But where the ultimate screw up is telling Phil Jackson that I don't care if you go 82-0, you will not return as the head coach of this team, right? He didn't want Phil Jackson to be there for the 97-98 season. It took the owner, Jerry Reinsdorf, just as all via the documentary, to go out to Montana and give Phil Jackson this $6 million deal to come back and return. Just a 1-year deal to return as the head coach for that season. If it was up to Krause, it sounds like he wouldn't have been back for that season. That was just so crazy to me, right? Like, you have this team, this nucleus that's won you 5 championships and that has no anticipation on slowing down. But Krause, in combination with Jerry Reinsdorf, admittingly saying that he thought, besides Michael Jordan, the rest of the team was on a decline. Reinsdorf came out in those first 2 hours and said, yeah, I think Michael still had it, but the rest of the team, I wasn't so sure. I think we had to blow it up after the 98 season, the 97-98 season, because I thought those guys were on the decline. That was crazy to me too. You're talking about a nucleus that's won you 5 championships, and at the end of that season would have won you 6. And you already got Krause telling Phil Jackson you can go 82-0, win a championship, you're not coming back. And you have an owner that believes that Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, and the rest of those guys, in combination with Michael Jordan, weren't going to be good enough to win another championship. That's just mind-blowing to me. Like how you have that mindset. I'm not to say he would have been wrong, right? Because I do think that by the 2000s, Kobe and Shaq was going to happen whether Michael Jordan was with the Bulls or not. Like, that was going to happen. It didn't matter. And you can go on and say, and you can debate whether you think Duncan and Robinson would have beat Jordan's Bulls in 99 that next year. But you got to at least try it, right? Like, don't you have to at least try it? Now all we have are a bunch of what ifs. What could have been, what should have been, and what ifs. But that was just like, I think that was the first part that kind of caught me off guard, that was just like super crazy to me, right? The second part was, and it's pretty easy if you go on Twitter and see all the memes, is Scottie Pippen's contract. So Scottie Pippen in 91 signed a 7-year, $18 million contract, right? Like, I mean, that, it's like equivalent to $2.5 million a year for what a lot of people say was the second best player in the NBA during that time. Think about that. $2.5 million a year. He was the 122nd highest paid player in the NBA during the 97-98 season. 122nd. He was 6th. He was the 6th highest paid player on the Bulls. There were 5 players 4 players not named Michael Jordan that were paid more than Scottie Pippen on the Chicago Bulls. Oh my God. Are you serious? Dennis Rodman this morning said that while Michael Jordan was out that year and a half, he thought Scottie Pippen was the best player in the NBA. And he was the 122nd highest paid player in the league. Come on, man. How does that happen? How does that? Now, you guys knock players, people as far as fans and even media members like myself, knock NBA players, especially NBA, more so than any other sport. NBA players get knocked like crazy for taking salaries. It's like you're choosing money over the team, right? Scottie Pippen chose the team, and he was the 122nd highest paid player. The owner, now, let me retract a little bit. Scottie Pippen, a lot of this blame goes on him. I'll say like 90% goes on him, actually. Because nobody put a gun to Scottie's head and told him to sign that trash contract. That garbage, god-awful contract. Nobody told him to sign that. And in the documentary, Jerry Reinsdorf, who's the owner of the Bulls, said that I told Scottie not to sign the deal. He told Scottie not to sign that deal. And guess what Scottie did? He signed it anyway. Oh my God, Scottie's agent needs to be fired. Jerry Krause is dead wrong for even offering that contract. And Scottie, oh my God, he wanted the security. He said he wanted the security and make sure the longevity to make sure. He said he wanted the security and the longevity to make sure that he got paid. Oh my God, Scottie, come on, man. That was, woo. That was bad, dude. Like, that was a terrible, terrible contract. So those were my biggest two takeaways in those first 2 hours of The Last Dance. ESPN, in combination with Netflix, is putting out there the 10-part documentary series covering the 97-98 championship team, but also encapsulating Michael Jordan's entire career for the Chicago Bulls. A couple other tidbits that I found interesting was the competition. I've always heard stories about this. Now I was born in 95, so like a lot of this stuff is like I've read and I've watched things, but I didn't live it, right? Like I didn't really remember when this was going on. I was only like 2-3 years old when this 97-98 team actually happened. So I was watching this, and I've read this, and I've seen other documentaries and stuff about the competition between Jerry Jordan and Michael Jordan, his older brother. And I didn't know that basically the dad almost favored Jerry over Michael, right? Like the competition between Jerry and Michael is what essentially drove Michael to be the player that he ultimately became, right? Like that is just so crazy. Like his competition between his brother. Now, I've always heard the high school stuff about him getting cut from the varsity team as a sophomore, but a big part of that was his height. He went from 5'10" to 6'3", and we've seen these crazy growth spurts with these NBA players like all the time, right? Jordan, between his sophomore and junior year of high school, grew from 5'10", 5'11" to 6'3", 6'4", you know what I'm saying? Something like that. We saw the Scottie Pippen story, which I never knew this, right? So Scottie Pippen, just for those who didn't watch, went to University of Central Arkansas, and it was an equipment manager, right? And finessed the coach, talked the coach into giving him a scholarship. He was 6'1". Then he grew. He grew from 6'1" to 6'7", 6'8", and that's when he became the dominant player that we know as the Hall of Famer Scottie Pippen, right? Like that is just like so mind-blowing to me. Just those stories between those growth in games and physically the literal growth in height between some of these NBA players. I mean, it's just like super wild to me. But back to Michael Jordan, the competition and the competitiveness between him and his older brother Jerry is what drove him to be, you know, ultimately the best player the world has ever seen on the basketball court. You know, especially up until this time. LeBron James might have something to say about that, but that's a different conversation. And that is just like Michael Jordan took everything personal, right? Like he looked at everything as a competition, and I don't know. Kobe Bryant's the only other person that comes to mind. I don't know of another professional athlete that looks at every single thing he or she does, as a ultimate sign of competition, right? It doesn't matter what it is, whether if it's on the golf course, playing cards, the basketball court, selling sneakers, selling apparel. Like, Michael Jordan took it all personal. And if you told him he couldn't do something, he went out there to prove that he could, and he could do it better than you, a lot better than you. In a lot of cases, especially in the game of basketball, he did. He did it a lot better than pretty much anybody, any and everybody we've ever seen before and since. And so this documentary is crazy good. I can't wait to see what else is coming in parts 3 and 4. From what I've listened and what I've heard, part 3 and 4, one of the parts, I think it's 3, is going to focus on Dennis Rodman, right? So like part 2 focused a lot on Scottie Pippen, his contract situation, how he came up, how he became the player he was. And then part 3 sounds like it's going to focus a lot on Dennis Rodman. So I can't wait. Let me know your thoughts on the first 2 parts of the Michael Jordan documentary. Once again, this is Jeff Lightsy Jr. for the Ball Sports Network. Thank you guys for watching. Continue to hit the thumbs up button, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.